So there's an insane new report about another one of the near complete disasters of the Trump administration's handling early in the COVID-19 pandemic. And the news is that Donald Trump floated the idea of sending foreigners who were in the United States and infected with COVID-19 to Guantanamo Bay Detention Center in Cuba, the very same Guantanamo Bay Detention Center where we keep and interrogate with enhanced techniques, which some call torture, those suspected of being terrorists. They aren't always, and that's a whole other issue and question mark. But this is just unbelievable. And I'm actually unsure which aspect of this is most disturbing, but I'll get to that. Forbes reports that former President Donald Trump early on in the COVID-19 pandemic floated the idea of sending infected American tourists to the Guantanamo Bay naval base in Cuba, according to an excerpt of an upcoming book, which adds new detail to the behind the scenes chaos of the Trump administration's controversial pandemic response, explaining that nightmare scenario inside the Trump administration's response to the pandemic that changed history. The book details a February 2020 meeting where Trump shocked aides with the suggestion. As White House officials debated, I mean, this is it's like satire. As White House officials debated how to handle Americans infected with the virus abroad, Trump reportedly asked staff members assembled in the Situation Room whether Americans could be quarantined on the Caribbean base where the U.S. also holds terrorism suspects in the infamous Guantanamo Bay prison. Don't we have an island we own? The president reportedly asked, eager to keep the U.S. numbers low. What about Guantanamo? The excerpt says aides were stunned, but Trump still brought up the idea a second time before it was quashed by staff members, citing the poor optics of housing Americans near the prison. Now, when this was initially reported, it seemed as though by American tourist, Trump meant foreigners. This seems to mean Americans who went abroad and came back with the virus. Americans, which it's insane either way, but it's sort of like an additional layer of insanity. The book, which is based on interviews with roughly 180 people, including senior White House staffers and government health leaders, is set to be published June 29. Representatives for Trump did not immediately respond to Forbes' request for comment. Trump reportedly said, "We import goods. We are not going to import a virus." Also reported, in addition to the exchange about Gitmo, the Washington Post published excerpt of the book recounts some of Trump's complaints about testing. "Testing is killing me," he reportedly claimed in a March phone call to then HHS Secretary Alex Azar, complaining, "I'm going to lose the election because of testing." That's been widely reported that Trump said, we've got to slow testing down. It's sort of like, if you've got to stop pregnancy, just stop testing for it. Even though that doesn't really stop a woman from being pregnant. If you don't get a pregnancy test, 9 months later, there's still a baby. Trump's idea was just don't test for COVID. So I'm actually unsure what is the craziest aspect of this. Like, there's the xenophobic aspect if you interpret this to mean foreigners who come to the U.S. and have COVID. But when you actually look into it more deeply, it seems Trump meant Americans who came back from vacations with COVID. Number two, is the legal aspect the most concerning? Like, is there any legal framework for taking someone with a virus not suspected of any crime? Even when someone is suspected of a crime, we can debate whether they should be sent to Gitmo. Foreign enemy combatants and that legal infrastructure. A legal American citizen or permanent resident who just has a virus. There's the legal question about sending them to Guantanamo Bay. But for me, the most concerning aspect of this is how idiotic is it to think that sending people with the virus to Gitmo would otherwise prevent the pandemic in the U.S., where you can say, we will just go forward normally. We don't have to do anything differently, which was Trump's approach during those early months, other than sending Americans who come back with the virus to Guantanamo Bay. For me, that's the craziest part. The legal questions, of course, the moral, ethical questions, absolutely. The xenophobic aspect to this, if you interpret it to mean foreigners, those are all crazy things. But the really wild part is it again goes to the idea of Trump's fundamental misunderstanding of we don't need to do anything other than send people to Gitmo if they come back from their vacation with the virus, as if that would have prevented the pandemic. We know that Trump was totally misguided on all aspects of this. And ultimately, we know how that turned out. Do not forget that one of the best ways to support the David Pakman Show is by supporting our awesome sponsors. And today, one of those sponsors is Sheath Underwear. The weather is warming up. It's hotter. It's stickier out there. And unfortunately for many of us, that comes with a lot of sticking and rubbing and chafing with traditional underwear. That is what Sheath Underwear has solved. Sheath has developed unique boxer briefs with multiple ergonomic compartments in the front, preventing skin-on-skin contact. That means everything stays separate, dry, cool, and comfortable. With Sheath Underwear, there is no more sweating, no more chafing, no more readjusting. It's great. Sheath Underwear is giving the David Pakman Show audience 20% off when you go to sheathunderwear.com/Pakman and use the promo code Pakman. Give Sheath Underwear a try. My experience has been great. I believe yours will be as well. You can find the link underneath this video, and do not forget to use that promo code Pakman for 20% off.